Guys, I come to you with a lot of disappointment tonight. A lot. I'm going to start the story with, I woke up this morning, I walked out to my garage, it was filled with smoke. I immediately was sick to my stomach with panic. I remembered the charger was on all night. But wait, that charger's set. It's set to cut off. What could be the problem? I walk over, I see the charger wires all look like they're intact. The charger's cool to the touch. It reads 5,000 milliamp and that it was done charging. My battery cover was resting like this. I didn't have it fully closed. It was resting like this. So I couldn't see yet what the damage was. I just smelled plastic. Smelled something burning, obviously. My garage is filled with smoke. I take a look around. I'm still in panic mode trying to think of what I touched while I was out here last night. What did I do, right? And then, of course, I decide to take a look underneath. And what do I find? An absolute fucking mess. I may as well have just walked out, pulled out $200 bills, and lit them on fire. So once again, this build that was fired up yesterday, and I was hoping to have a chance to run this weekend, is fucked. Look at this shit. All the fucking servo wires are toasted. My Super B, the wiring's toasted. This, the power switch, of course. This Turnigy remote on-off switch for the lights, smoked. The fucking Killer RC speaker, you can barely see the fucking thing. It's a toasted mess. Smoked. The actual lead wire for the kill switch is in good shape. And this was, what, my lights. So, of course, some of it might be salvageable with a little bit of soldering and, of course, cutting back the wires. But, guys, this is fucking ridiculous. That's a 6-volt NYMA, 6-volt Venom hump pack, 5,000 milliamp, okay? Not a LiPo. I don't own any LiPos for this exact effing reason. I will not bring a LiPo battery into this home. I do not care about my truck's ability to steer or perform that much. They've been known to burn houses down. That's all you got to tell me. I'm out. But that's exactly why I'm still running NYMA packs. Nickel metal hydride. What the fuck happened? I imagine you're trying to draw some conclusions right now. I'll tell you, the first thing I had to do was go to work. After I pulled the battery out of there, put it outside, left it on my concrete driveway, knowing it was going to rain today, and I had to leave it. Made sure everything was cool in here, and I let my garage air out for a few minutes, and I had to leave, which also left me sick to my stomach. So my first conclusion was, well, maybe the charger malfunctioned. I've owned this charger for a little over a year. And I've charged this battery pack, which is relatively new, 3 or 4 times. It's always charged cool as a cucumber. I've always charged it outside of the battery tray, mind you, for obvious reasons. Which, as a side note or an FYI, no matter what, take your battery out of the tray. Don't get, I shouldn't even say lazy, don't take advantage of that charging port. Don't do it. This is why. Because everything you got in there, you may as well just take a match to it. And then be thankful that the fucking gas tank, which is directly behind it, didn't cause a major explosion. So I'm still sick to my stomach. Last night, I'm going to kind of back up and tell you this story, so hopefully this doesn't happen to any of you guys, because I put my family at risk. I never fall asleep with the charger on, even though I know my charger has cutoffs, and I've seen them work many times, but I always monitor the situation. But it got late. I followed the discharge up to the point where it was down to about 0.11 volts, and then I walked out of the garage for the last time, and I ended up falling asleep. Well, apparently, and I have it set to a 5-minute wait before it goes into charge mode. I always run a discharge and then a charge, no matter what. That's just what I do. It's what I've always done. I have it set for a 5,000 milliamp cutoff, which is what this battery is. I always charge it at 4.5 amps. Okay, it's a 5,000 milliamp. I always discharge it at 1 amp. I always do 10 millivolts as far as the charging. Okay, when you go into the settings, there's a 10 millivolt option, and that's what I charge it at. And that's for the individual cells, millivolts. Okay, so that is a safe, kind of a default, great way to charge a battery like mine. And I've done it, like I said, 3 or 4 times with this particular pack. Never had a problem. Always charged it outside of the tray. Well, last night I decided to charge it in the tray, and I wake up to this shit. So again, we ask ourselves, what happened? How did this happen? I don't know. No, not a single piece of wiring was changed. It's been the same wiring. I've charged it at least 2 times with that wiring. And the only conclusion that I can draw is last night or yesterday when I fired this up. I let it run for about a half hour, maybe 20 minutes, and I shut it off. I was looking to see if the telemetry was working properly, which I was getting an RPM readout, but it was incorrect. It was reading a steady RPM, which would rise and fall with throttle, but it was around 11,000 RPMs for idle. So my first thought was maybe that switch module is junk, because like I said, it took a pretty bad beating with the heat from sitting on top of the clutch carrier. It's all warped, the plastic's warped in the back, and of course this isn't the best location, but again, I talked about that in the previous video. I was going to kind of take a feel for heat, see how bad it was, maybe wrap the pipe here, whatever. Long story short, the RPM wasn't reading correctly. And when I rolled the truck on the ground, I was looking for some readout as far as the miles per hour is concerned. I wasn't getting any. So long story short, the transmitter function for the settings to choose the senses and then to I guess designate the senses as far as what they're going to read, whether it be miles per hour or RPM, is a little difficult, and I'm still not totally understanding it all, which I thought I had it down, but I spent so much time away from it that I think I've kind of forgotten. And so I was having some trouble with it. Going back and forth with the settings, I had the truck on, of course the transmitter's on, my kill switch engaged, and when it engaged and killed the power, it was a voltage cutoff. It didn't kill the power, but it was a voltage cutoff. So I knew that there was a problem, and I was thinking, wait a second. I turned it back on, the kill switch engaged again. And I was like, what the hell? I was just looking at the receiver 2 minutes before that and noticed and happened to be looking at the battery readout for the internal battery. The receiver gives you that readout. Because I was wondering, well, I've been messing with this for a while. I wonder how much power I have left. And I swear to God, guys, when I looked at that battery, it was reading 6.2 volts or somewhere in that area. So how the hell did the voltage cut off on? How did it engage for voltage cutoff? So I pulled out my Killer RC instructions, and I read, and I see that this is the default setting for radios with an auxiliary channel, and I remember that that's the way I left it. I wanted the glitch kill active, auxiliary active, switch 1 up, switch 2 up, and that's where it should be. Okay, so that's where it comes stock. And I'm thinking, well, maybe one of the dip switches got moved. So let me take a look. I take a look. I see that they did not get moved. And they have to be moved in a kind of funny fashion to get the low voltage cutoff to change. It's set here. 4 amber flashes is the 4 volt cutoff, which is default. That's the default setting on this, and I never messed with it for a 5-cell NYMA pack. So somehow, when again, I thought I had just seen that the battery pack had a good charge and was reading 6-something volts, it dropped out of nowhere. This didn't dawn on me that it could be an issue with the battery, that it was a malfunction. I mean, it didn't dawn on me in this way, you know, that this could potentially fucking happen. So I decided, all right, I'm done with what I'm doing. I'm gonna, you know, of course I'm having an issue. The battery just shut off. I've got no power. I run a discharge on it, because that's the way I have it set to cycle. Always discharge, then charge. But when you plug the battery into that charger, it gives you a readout of where the battery's at. And then it discharges, and you can watch it pull the milliamps. And you know, as it pulls, the milliamps go down. So it reads the exact opposite of what just happened. You would expect that thing to be around 4 volts when I plug it into the charger. Nope, 5.8. It starts counting down from there. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. What is going on? So I let it discharge. I watch it discharge down to the point of 0.11 volts. And then I fall asleep. And apparently, on charge, something went wrong. But it took 5,000 milliamp. At least that's what the charger said when I came out this morning. This is just really, really disappointing, guys. And it's the epitome of why I decided to call this Sick and Tired RC when I was trying to come up with a cheesy name for this so-called YouTube channel, you know? And I appreciate the guys, you know, those of you guys that watch and comment. Some of the guys that comment are just such pains in the asses, but it is what it is. Long story short, I'm beside myself right now. I called Venom. They're sending me a new pack for what it's worth, you know, but they're not going to replace the other shit and the amount of time involved. And who knows if it's even their fault. But based on what just happened, which is why I just went through that whole drawn-out story, I'm going to go with that battery malfunctioned. Because like I said, there hasn't been any changes made since I've charged it in this manner in the past. So this is this is what I woke up to. And I know it's not the end of the world, but it's just fucking disappointing, man. I don't have the time I don't have the time for this hobby as it is. I really don't, but I really enjoy it. And so I try to make the time, which normally means late nights or early mornings, or once a month I get to actually get behind the damn transmitter and use one of them. And then, you know, to have to deal with this stuff is just, come on, dude. Really? You gotta be fucking kidding me right now, dude. So I may as well not even bother trying to fix that Super B, or try to, you know, make sense of the wiring and see if I can fix it, because who knows? You know, that's the last thing I want to hack. And the servos, I mean, these are the stock servos, and I was just thinking to myself the other night, haha, all these suckers spending fucking $500 on servos. I'm still running the stock shit Robin ones, and they work great, right? Who's the sucker now? Me. Look at this shit. Those fucking things are toasted. I might be able to cut the wires back and try to salvage them. I'm not a bad solderer. Who knows, but what a fucking mess, man. What a fucking mess. And the only thing that looks like it's still absolutely intact is the damn $12 FlySky receiver. The one thing that I would have gave 2 shits if it had been melted to shit. But the kill switch is really the pisser, you know what I mean? The fuck. The actual unit itself is in one piece, but the wiring looks like it's pretty fucked. So I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to stop ranting. Just decided to make this video to remind you guys not to, you know, not to charge your NYMA packs, or any pack for that matter, in your battery tray, unless you want to run the risk of something like this happening. And in my opinion, it is a pain in the ass to get the fucking batteries out of there, but it's a lot more of a pain in the ass to deal with this. So you do the math on that one, and, you know, do what you will. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back with this build, hopefully, and have some progress, and maybe, you know, yeah, maybe have a chance to run it sometime this year.